Take, you're a genealogist.
Yeah.
And what happens is that people don't become as important as they should be in a tragic society until they die.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sharing this with this reporter that interviewed me, and I was very disappointed that she didn't put any of these things in in the newspaper. I mean, in the article, but that's all right. She is 26-year-old Mexican girl who's just glad to be here, and she was using tape, and I could tell that she wasn't really getting everything because you, as a journalist, you're supposed to write it down. Then you're supposed to ask questions. Then you're supposed to ask questions back to the interviewee and make sure that you got it right. I mean, the fact that she got my name wrong and we've been talking for 2 weeks, it just gives
Oh.
you an indication of how slipshod. And that's the first thing. The second thing is that she might have wrote a beautiful article, one that I would have loved. But I mentioned Malcolm and Maulana and Garvey and Harriet Tubman and Fannie Lou Hamer and
Mm-hmm.
Martin King and Dr. Martin Luther King and Minister Malcolm X. And they might say, hey, wait a minute, we want a little bit of black stuff, but that's too much. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're not going to let our white conservative newspaper be used as a vehicle to pass on and to empower and inspire black people. But the point I was making to her was about education in America and how unimportant it is to me. Not education, real education. I'm making a different distinction between training and education.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Reagan taught us way back in the 60s that he did an article did a lecture at Yale University, and he was talking about how the university's first obligation is to socialize people into becoming an American.
Mm.
And so if you got a master's degree or a PhD, a double PhD, and you in the United States, you just mastered white people. You writing down what they say and taking pride in getting an A. But when black people speak, who might be a little bit more brighter than them, you don't even write it down. And if you disagree with it, well, that's your opinion.
Mm. Okay.
And it's not to put people down, it's to show how we've been inculcated and continue to be inculcated with hatred. And one of the points I was making about education is that at least 3 of the men and women of history, well, 4 of them, 5, 6 of them for me, my
Yeah.
mama, my daddy, my grandmother, my great grandmother, my auntie Emma, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X, and I can't think of the other person. But none of these people even had a high school diploma.
Right. Right.
Just
But they.
imagine that. Fannie Lou Hamer ain't had no high school diploma because they wouldn't let her get one, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
maybe if she got one, she'd have learned how to be white. And she wouldn't have been as black as she was. Maybe if Malcolm had went to the University of Columbia or Morehouse or any of these other so-called institutions of higher learning, maybe he wouldn't have been as bright. Oh, the other person was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. He had a 4th grade education, and look what he did. Look what institutions he built. So that's what I was condemning. Then I was also saying that 2 of the greatest men in history, not just black history, but our history, I mean world history, Malcolm X and Dr. King, their main contributions that they made in their life to us was only 13 years. And yet here we are, still talking about them. So we never know. And we shouldn't get it twisted. Everybody didn't agree with Malcolm and Martin, Dr. King, like they do now, where they're safely and comfortably dead.
Okay.
If you go back and look at the history, they did agree with them. They thought they were moving too fast and messing things up for us. Can we just wait? Why can't? And that's why Dr. King had to write it, and the white people too, white liberals, why he had to write this book. Why we can't wait?
Mm.
Because it's easy to tell me while I'm sitting in jail, while my people are being murdered and killed and lynched, boiled in oil, hung by their necks, testicles cut off. It's easy for you to tell us to be cool. You ain't going through nothing, but let you go through some changes. It's just like right now, the Africans and the people, third world people in Palestine are dying. And you got people like Nick Cannon talking about, first of all, attacking the Jew for being wrong and then backing up. Well, that's not what I really meant. And donating his proceeds from his show that they let him have to Jewish Holocaust victims.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's being whispered, but that's a punkish move. First of all, you stole the land from Palestine in 1949. The United States, along with Britain, gave it to these Europeans, kicked the people off their own land. I mean, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does.
It's like a historical European kind of thing. They come in and see beauty and joy and love and human laughter and human civilization at its best. They come in and destroy it and then take it over and then claim that it's you're supposed to have it by manifest destiny because God told you're supposed to have it. Anyway, they're killing these people. Somebody throws a rock in rebellion and resistance to being oppressed, you kill 149 people with rocket launchers and modern weaponry that this country provides, and that's what is that? There's no moral equivalency to that kind. And sometimes we can't do anything about it, but we can speak out. And those men and women, the Samuel L. Jacksons, the Oprah Winfreys, the people that got millions and millions of dollars that don't have to cater to white interests anymore, if they ever had to, they should speak out on these things. And they'd be surprised with how that would reverse things. That's what Sammy Davis Jr. did, Harry Belafonte did. How do you think that we helped to get rid of apartheid in South Africa?
Right.
How do you think we got Martin Luther King's birthday? Because people, at first it starts off as small, then it starts to snowball, Yvette Porter Moore. And then people start picking up on it and saying, yeah, that's not right. Then you start boycotting Gulf Oil, and Gulf Oil said, wait a minute, no, we boycotting you until you get rid of the apartheid regime in South Africa and free Mandela.
Okay.
Madiba. And if you don't do it, we're going to keep doing that. Just like we did in the 60s here in San Diego and across the country, but here in San Diego. It started in 1969. You don't give us black faculty. You don't give us black staff. You don't give us black food in our in the cafeterias. You don't give us real black studies and black history. Then we won't go to school. And we don't go to school. Yeah, you don't go to school. You don't get average daily attendance. We don't think we can outlast you. Because when you're young and vibrant, you don't have much to lose. It's the older people sometimes who get mortgages, things like that, they might start compromising. But I'm an older person and I was a younger person, and I feel the same way. I could care less about the material comforts that come with this society. I want justice for our people. And people who don't want that, by not just word, but deed, they shouldn't be around me. And they should declare themselves to be unholy and punkish.
Okay. All right.
And then that way we'll know who we're dealing with. We won't send our children around you. And we won't have anything to do with you. And you can be isolated and you can run over there to Integrationville until they tell you we don't need you no more. Oh, I wish Mr. Porter was here and Mrs. Porter was here.
I do too.
George was here and that Leon Williams was conscious. And they would tell you what happened when they tried to integrate in Claremont, of all places. And they set crosses on fire in their front yards and they had to come back home. But we don't have to go back that far. Ask Michael what happened. Jackson, I'm talking about.
Okay, I was just wondering.
He had integrated. He thought that he was a thriller for everybody. Then they didn't need him no more. And he tried his best to be wild. He did everything, including cutting his nose, yellowing his skin, straightening his hair. Some people said he might have had that operation where your voice don't change, right?
Oh,
And they still said, get out of here. We don't like you. You're a pedophile.
Mm.
And we want everything that you've ever earned. We want your estate. Then Mikey comes back saying, hey, Nation of Islam, can you protect me?
Mm.
I don't know if you remember all of this, but
Yeah,
I do.
was it too late? It was too late.
No, it's never, look, it's never too late to be right.
Mm.
It's never too late to be ethical.
Mm.
It's never too late to be moral. Because if that was the case, all of us would have died the first time we made a mistake.
Well, yeah.
But you can't keep talking about I'm a change, or like a lot of so-called Christians do. Well, God knows me. Well, look, he might know you, and he don't like you either. So change your behavior, change the way you talk, change the way you do things, change the way you treat people. Be kind, be considerate. Try to develop something between your ears called mental and moral maturity. You can still do that. And you don't have to have any money. You don't have to be rich.
All right.
But you have to be rich in character.
Okay.
And you got, remember one time when you wasn't a grandmother? And when you wasn't a mother and it was just you, you could do what you wanted to do for the most part and accept the consequences that came from that. But when you start to become responsible for other human beings, you better change and become more responsible, talk responsibly, act responsibly, or you don't get to claim motherhood or fatherhood. For that matter, brotherhood or sisterhood. You don't get to claim nothing except jump.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you keep going too far, you become a chimp. And that's just me trying to be funny.
I got you. Oh my gosh. Well, you gave me everything. No, I'm just kidding. But okay, so the first thing, I wanted to find out, which I already know. What is your name? What is your full name?
Well, my full name is Robert Tambuzi.
I already know the last part. You were born, what was your father's last name? Was it Cunningham?
Well, quite frankly, that's not important.
It's not?
No, let me just tell you why.
Okay.
I practice the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, 7 principles of Black community development that was developed in September 7, 1965 by Dr. Maulana Karanga. And the second principle, Kuti Chagalia, self-determination, says we're supposed to define ourselves, create for ourselves, name ourselves. Keyword, name ourselves and speak for ourselves. So my daddy and mama, and the ancestors before, they didn't have an African or Afrocentric sense of the world, but I do. So why use a slave master's name and even keep talking about it? All that Cunningham represents is the Scottish Irish people that owned, raped, sold, plundered, pillaged, and used our Black bodies to make money. So why should I keep using that? I'm not proud of that. I take Malcolm's position. I hate every drop of, if there's any, because I don't think there is in me and my family. No, because I can just look and tell. I'm prototypically African. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that. But even if I was, I would hate the rapist blood that's in me, and I wouldn't give it any proper. And it don't mean nothing. Right. Even when I was trying to get, trying to get passport. You go back to crackers, they didn't have it together. They checked off boxes that they wanted to check off. My daddy's in Korea fighting for this country, right? My mama's a teenage mother having a baby. In labor, they ask their questions. Well, you had a baby before. You're in pain. The world is disoriented, and you got some cracker asking you something. Now that's in the modern era. Go back almost 70 years ago in a hick town called Carroll, Illinois, and try to imagine, if you will, the lack of respect. It's like a baby thing. Here's a baby. Here, let's go. Check. So Tambuzi is my name. It was given to me, and it's something that I earned. And it's something that my mother and father grandmother and auntie, they was all Christians and they all bleeding white man. That's how they was cultivated and raised. And at first they didn't accept me. That they didn't accept that because they had seen fads come and go before. But when they showed I was consistent about it, they start correcting people. Don't call him that. His name is Tambuzi.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm holding on to that.
Okay. No, I understand. So what about this Robert? So why do people continually put Robert in
Even
front of
that,
your...
let me just tell you, it's 1968. I'm in the 9th grade. My mama named me Bobby.
Bobby. Okay.
No, i.e. Bobby.
Oh.
Which then I found it, really realized that's the female derision.
Oh.
I think that's the right word of Robert. Robert is supposed to be the more formal. Actually, it's Robert, which is French. So in the 9th grade, I decided, because it's I went to the Hey Kalu, or the cultural center when it was located on Broadway. And one of the sisters, Shangaza, came and asked me what my name was. And I said, Bobby. And she said, oh, so you're named after Mr. Kennedy's son, our brother? And I never felt that embarrassed in my life. So my first act of self-determination was to change that Bobby into Robert, right? Like it was whatever. Then when I became a member of the organization, Sakuma was the chair of the San Diego chapter. And in African tradition, most people are named their children or adapted names that speak to your best qualities or qualities that you would like to have, or what people see in you aspirationally. And so that's how I got the name Tambuzi. And I kept wanting to change the Robert part, but it became such a part of my persona that it was hard. It just happened to redo it. And so each year I came up with some excuse for it. So whatever. But don't call me Robert if you want to get my attention.
Oh, no.
No,
I've always called you Tambuzi. Yeah.
It's Tambuzi. And if you need it, and most Americans need a first name. And if you need a first name, just let it be Mr.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
then that'll be. And I guess maybe I can do that. Maybe I should think about that. But I'm not thinking about it right now. I'm thinking about Tambuzi, which is a name that speaks to Kiswahili name, and it means several things: clear-sighted, intelligent, educated. Yeah, so things like that. And even though when I first got the name, I didn't aspire to those kind of things. I wanted to do well. I wanted to be smart in class and bring home good grades. But this kind of intelligence and farsighted is about being Black. So what it means to be African and how African means excellence, and excellence on all levels. That is a different kind of orientation that helped me to get to where I am. So I try to be, and people think it's not just people. Unfortunately, some people see being intelligent and farsighted and having a name like that as arrogant, and it's not. It's quite the opposite. It's humbling, because if your name is Tambuzi and you acting stupid, they don't go together. That's socially contraindicated. So when people say, "Hey, intelligent," you should be acting that way, as opposed to acting a fool. And too many people, well, I shouldn't say that. Most people respect it. They might not can do it, or they might not see it right away, but they can respect it. They can see that. Just like we respect positive attributes in others that we might not have, we still respect the attribute. I mean, we might not be able to do it. You know, I can't run real fast like Usain Bolt, but I respect not only his ability to run fast, but the work and study, the struggle and discipline that it takes to become the world's fastest runner. I respect all of that. I hold it in great because you striving for something that's to be the best, and not just the best for yourself, but the best for your family, for your community, for your people, and for history.
Okay.
In that order of importance.
Right, right.
But go
Okay.
ahead,
Oh
next
yes.
question
Yeah. Well,
in
you've
our
answered all my
dialogue.
questions through the years, but you know what? So you talked about us, the organization us, but I wanted to find out a little more about the interactions between the Panther Party in San Diego and then us. Like what happened? Like why did us have to leave, San
Us
Diego?
never, no, us never left.
No, not us, but um the Panther Party.
What
Because
about the
didn't the
Panther
Panther
Party?
didn't didn't they have to leave
No, let
San
me just
Diego?
say this. I don't know very much about the Panther Party, and you
Uh-huh.
don't either.
No, I
And then
don't.
nobody does, because I can ask you, where do you think the Panther Party left? I can tell you what us did. I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you how we supported and promoted and provided security for Malcolm X Day, and how we led the walkouts for uh, uh, on Malcolm X's birthday, how we created Kwanzaa that is spread throughout every Black place and all throughout the globe, how we created the 7 principles, and our leader created the 7 principles
Mm-hmm.
that everybody do, how we talk about now. You can't find too many Black people that live in America that don't have a child or an auntie or nephew who's got a African name. I can tell you what we've done, but I can put our resume
Mm-hmm.
alongside any organization that came out of the 60s and grew in the 60s. I'm you tell me what the Panthers did. I can't, because I can't tell you.
Right, right.
And for them to have such a notoriety and popularity among liberals and Jews, that's
Mm,
mind blowing to me. They even have a movie called Black Panther about an invisible place that don't exist called Wakanda.
mm,
They don't
okay.
even exist.
Mm,
Doing all what is all of that? It's a diversion, and it's a cultural like travesty that's been imposed upon us by Jew and Gentile.
mm,
Now, at one time, to answer some of your question, when we started, this organization was founded September 7th, 1965,
okay.
in Los Angeles, California, by Dr. Maulana Karenga.
Mm-hmm.
The Panther Party, as my understanding, was founded in October. I don't have the same date, of 1966. When all the organizations started, and again, most of us were modeling ourselves at that time after Alhaj Malik El-Shabazz, which is Minister Malcolm X. All of us wanted to be his legacy, live his life,
Mm,
continue on in his struggle. Most of us did. History still has to, the record is still out about whether or not there's other group that's got more notoriety than anybody else. We
mm-hmm.
were all infiltrated by the COINTEL program, which was
Mm-hmm.
a counterintelligence program that was started by J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover issued of the FBI, issued a statement to over 250 of his field agents in 250 cities in this country that said, and I think this was in 1967, he said, I want some hard-hitting ideas that will help us destroy, disrupt, or otherwise neutralize the rise of a Black Messiah that might unify the Black masses, because that's what they were afraid of, is the unification of the Black masses.
Mm,
We also gave a lot of deference, and still do, to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for the institutions that he built, and the institution Nation of Islam, the fruit of Islam, the stores and shops and other businesses that he farms, all the things that he did, the new language that he gave us.
mm-hmm.
He called the white man, and I want to whisper this in hushed tones. He said, I want to tell you Black people something. The white man is not God. He's the devil.
Mm,
And
Mm-hmm.
if he's the devil, guess who you are, Black people? Y'all are gods
Mm.
and goddesses, built from the very beginning by God, Allah, to rule this country, to rule this world. And we're going through the rough time right now. I'm not gonna get into all the homiletics and the biblical teaching or the Quranic teaching because that's not my field. But the nationalist part, telling Black people, calling the white people the devil in the 60s, well, in the 30s actually, but by the time we get to the 60s, that's mind blowing to
Mm.
me
Mm-hmm.
because we always looked up to them, thought that we were second to them. He told us that we're second to none.
Yeah.
He
But when
might even have hinted that we're superior. But the fact of the matter is that you had told us that we were nothing.
mm,
But we obviously we must have been something, or why would you try to kill us? Why would you boil us in oil when we're still alive? Why would you draw and quarter our women? Why would you hang us and Black men and cut off their testicles and have public displays and bring your children to eat popcorn and drink soda? If we wasn't there, why'd you try to destroy us like you did the indigenous first people here?
mm,
We weren't the only ones that went to a Tuskegee type of thing. They gave these people, and it makes me angry, not mad, because that's the mental disorder, but
mm-hmm.
angry, righteously indignant. You're going to give somebody self-consciously syphilis and tuberculosis that you know is going to kill them in a blanket, to give them alcohol that you know that their bodies weren't constructed for, to kill off the buffalo that was their mainstay in terms of their life. After they welcomed your ravaged, cave-like, scurvy-ridden asses into this country, because you got lost. They ain't found nobody. You stumbled upon this part of the.
Mm-hmm.
But they welcomed you with kindness and consideration. And you kill them. And then take their land and come up with some stupid, amoral, immoral concept called manifest destiny. That God said you're supposed to take this based on some other biblical myths about God telling us to do something like a real estate, like God was a real estate agent.
Right.
Killed these people. You tried to do it to us. But sad to say, white boy and girl, too black, too strong. Here he is.
Okay.
We're astronauts, remember? President, seismologists, scientists, doctors, lawyers,
Okay.
electricians, whatever we want to be, in spite of you, not because of you, in spite of you, because of the struggle that we have to go through. I was talking to one of my dear friends, Herman Baca, the other day, and both me and Herman grew up together. He's, I think, a decade older than I am, but I have the utmost respect for him. And we would talk about and said how important it was for us to do these types of interviews while we're still living. Because even though it was a recent article that was done on me, and it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you could have been a fly on the wall listening to me lecture this 26-year-old Latina on how to, do an interview. Because, I got a little background in journalism. So I'm sorry to say, I used to write for newspapers and that kind of thing. I had my own radio show. So I know that journalism is basic. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. Mm-hmm. 6 things. I want to add a 7 because I don't like the number 6. But anyway, I'll think of it later. Okay. But you're asking me these questions, I'm talking stuff, and then you come up with, I got a cancer diagnosis. The cancer diagnosis is relatively short. These decades of struggle and commitment to my community, they're decades long. That's what should have predominated the article.
Right, right.
I'm not fighting cancer. I'm fighting the white man and his system. Mm-hmm. And part of his system is the health system that creates cancer in us in the first place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had cancer if I wasn't exposed to carcinogenic things like cigarettes and CO2 and carbon emissions that come from cars and factories and messing up our community by what do you call it? Encapsulating us between freeways.
Right,
Now you think black people, other third world people, not just in San Diego, but across the country, got more incidents of asthma and respiratory problems. It's done on purpose. And then when the white boy in this country saw that he was messing up a good thing because, you know, evil don't have no boundaries, right? Cigarette smoke don't stop because you white. You know, crack don't stop because you had it geared for somebody else. So you start taking this stuff and manufacturing things that we wear and use and eat in Pakistan. Look at how Pakistan is. Look at Japan. They can't even breathe in Japan. India. Look at these places. So the white man is our enemy.
Okay.
And you can go and find one or two, and people, I'm going to tell these people this to their face. I don't want to tell them through you. You can go and find one cracker that you like. And it's hard to be black and African minded when you got a gray devil on your arm or on your wall. But don't put down those of us who don't have that addiction. Whiteness is an addiction, and you look at it. It could be white people, white sugar, white cocaine. I mean, I could just walk on down the list of white things that we want to become addicted to and defend. So, and I might as well get this out the way. There was a white boy in our history in this country. His name was John Brown. He's an abolitionist. Okay, now that check him off the box. We don't have to bring it up no more. Now these other white liberals, I know them. I work with them. And they want to rub up on you and be your partner, but they don't want to go home. And I take Malcolm's position. If you're a white person and you want to help us, there's three things you can do. The first thing you can do is give us some money. Give us the money that we earned. It's called reparations. And the money is not just cash. It could be college, free college for anybody who wants to go. Free medical treatment for anybody that needs it. Don't always have to be money. And a host of other things. And admitting that what you did to us was a Holocaust, it was wrong. And that you're ashamed of it. And that it still persists, whether that's in segregation, whether that's Jim Crow, it still exists. You know, I find it interesting as an example, how on most of the major media, they got black people, but they're usually gay. And I don't have nothing against gay people. But why is it all gay? You telling me ain't no straight people know how to report the news? Especially men. Stop your war on black men. Stop inculcating them with these silly ideas. I got Negroes, famous Negroes, wanting to clip their son's testicles at 13 because they have tendency toward, I ain't gonna call it names, you do the research. But this real, I'm not making this up. Turning them into little girls before they even get started. Will Smith. But anyway, Dwayne Wade. But at 13, you can't make no decision about what you want to be. You don't even know nothing. And even in this society, you can't buy alcohol until you're 21. So what about making decisions, life-change, altering decisions about what your sexuality is going to be? And I'm not saying, again, because people will take this thing and they'll clip off the part they want. I'm saying the whole sentence. I have nothing against what people want to be, how God made them to be, what their inclinations are in terms of their gender and their sexuality and all the rest of those kinds of things. But don't tell me that the only people that can report the news are gay people like Don Lemon, who are always crying.
Oh
What
God.
happened to the strong Black men? Is there
Mm,
something wrong with if people can stand up for the strong gay men? Who stands up for the strong Black men? And
mm,
if everybody's gay or LBGQ
mm,
or whatever, how do you produce a civilization? And what's the point behind that? The same white man, the same system that hated gays, called them queers, made them be in the closet, made them commit suicide, are now promoting it. What is that about?
mm.
Shouldn't we look deeper into it?
It's interesting.
So anyway, I went off on this thing. The first thing that white people can do is admit that you did wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
the second thing you do is provide us money and all the things that we need, material things, technology, and in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third and most important thing they can do, and I'm doing my understanding of Malcolm's teaching. And you notice I said my understanding of Malcolm's teaching because I could be off on a little of this, but basic idea is there. And the third and most important thing you can do is develop what he calls civilizing communities, what him and Dr. Krieger call civilizing committees, where you go to where racism is, like your mama's house, your cousin's house, them places where they want to shoot wolves for that they never did nothing to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
The people who want to go to Africa and shoot rhinoceros and deplete God's creation with elephants and stuff, and then with a big old heavy duty rifle, like you did something. You go to those places and talk bad about racism. It's just like with the Black Lives Matter movement. Don't get it twisted. If Black people, and they're to be praised for this, if Black people, young and old, middle-aged, whoever, that stood up and said Black Lives Matter, if they hadn't stood up and finally got tired of being mistreated by a racist society, white liberals wouldn't have stood up either. Because the problems would have been the same. It changed.
Mm-hmm.
The problem's the same. So why didn't you stand up and say, no, hell no, we won't go, or that ain't right? You waited for us to do that because that's our role. We are supposed to be men and women of live, self-determination. I keep saying this, to divide ourselves, to speak for ourselves, to create for ourselves, to name ourselves. We're supposed to do that. Then we're supposed to do Ujima, which is to build and maintain our communities together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. Then we do Ujima, which is cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. And if you notice in that Dr. Karenga's definition of Ujima, it doesn't say make money. It says profit from them together. So when you build a well where there was a drought, everybody profits from that. When you build a clinic where there were sick people and folks get healthy, everybody profits from that. It said nothing about money. It's the white man that comes in with this thing called money. And that's a devilish thing because people that start going for money and machines and material kind of thing, as opposed to what they're supposed to be going for, which is the betterment and flourishing of human life. Then we're supposed to be continuing with the seven principle Nia, purpose is to do what we can in the way that we can. See, if you do what you can in the way that you can, you don't get off the hook. Well, I can't do it. But you can do something, Dr. King said. Everybody ain't gonna discover a cure for cancer, discover no new rockets and all the rest of that. He said, but we can all be great because we can serve. You can serve somebody. And in my humble opinion, this is Tambuzi's declaration or thing. Don't serve God, he don't need you. Because God, my God is God, he don't need you. He don't need you praising nothing.
Okay.
God got it together. By the way, he created everything. He can be what he wants to be, or she. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He created the universe. He makes the stars. He created the rotation we call days on Earth. He measured time for us. Created trees and fauna. So I don't think he needs no Negro's help.
Wow.
Doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He don't
Okay.
need nobody with dresses on, cardinals and popes that are
Mm.
rich, opulently rich, or imams, not imams. And I ain't talking about nobody's religion. I'm just talking reality. God don't need that. He doesn't need a
Mm-hmm.
temple. Doesn't need a pew. But human beings do.
Mm.
Poor people do. Children with autism do. Lonely people who are shut in, contemplating suicide because they're alone. They need love. They need a phone call. They need a hug. They need to know that they matter and that they're worth their worth is worth something.
Right.
Now, if you before and I don't know if it's which Bible or Christian text it comes from. Might even be a Jewish thing. But somebody said in one of the books, how you gonna love God who you've never seen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That still applies today. You ain't never
Mm.
seen God, except you have.
Mm.
You see
Oh.
God every day
Mm.
and his bountiful and her bountiful creation every day in clouds and stars. The fact that the way the solar system is set up, the planets don't bump into each other. That we just, asteroids just miss us for millennia. How do you explain that? What creative white boy came up with the ability to do that?
Mm.
Look at that, how this European pollutes the ocean. And I'm going to be clear as the European. If we participated in it because he set the system up,
Mm-hmm.
we ain't created no plastic. He did.
Mm.
We ain't created no nuclear facilities. Can I get what do they call it, chat or a hand? We didn't do that.
Okay.
He did. And so when
Wow.
frogs come out with three eyes, we didn't do that. So you pollute the environment. We participate in it as unwilling victims,
Mm.
sometimes at gunpoint or threat. Because when you tell a person that they got to go over there and do this, or you're not going to have enough money to buy food for your family and provide them a place, tell me why that's not a hostage situation.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then in order to deal with that kind of thing that you know is wrong internally, you drink or you smoke or you do something. You shop until you drop. Or some people just shut down and act like it ain't really happening. That you ain't
Mm-hmm.
really participating in your own degradation. So
Wow.
back to Nia, doing as much as you can in the way that you can. So serve people. And service is not always catering to people's whims and desires. Sometimes you have to tell your children and childlike people that no, I'm not going to do that because it's not right. But Ma, I don't care. You're not going. And then they have a temper tantrum. Good. I'm still not going to do it. If
Mm.
I know it's right, I'm going to stand by that and I'm going to stand on it. And guess what's going to happen? I'm going to outlast you because right outlasts wrong all day long.
Mm.
And then finally, when you come to your own conclusion, they'll sneak up on the side sometimes. Sometimes they'll be bold enough to say it to you, tell you to their face. Mommy, remember I was tripping? I was wrong and I'm sorry. Baba, I don't know what got into me. And I could always tell him, I know what got into you, the devil.
How
And
did I know you were going to say that?
the devil's the white man. Because all the devil is the manifestation of diabolical activity and
Mm.
action. It's the personification of evil, by definition. And what could be more evil than shooting a little boy
Mm.
who's 13 years old in the chest 4 times and killing him, or killing a 16-year-old girl with a knife? That's an unequal, asymmetrical relationship. What could be more evil than that? And then not saying it's wrong, but wanting to investigate it.
Mm-mm-mm. Wow.
Why wouldn't, why, and if it don't make, If you can't do nothing about it, can you at least shed a tear? Can you cry a little bit? Are you moved by anything anymore, Black people? Or we become anesthetized, doped up, numb, and insensitive to human suffering? And if we have, just kill yourself. And I don't mean that like it's sad, because you already did. Just go away and don't get in the way. And when men and women of character and strength talk like I do, act like other people of strength and character, don't try to explain us. I said, we got mental issues. Yeah, I got a mental issue with your mama. If you acting like this, the mental issue I got was when we clear away all the layers is that devil that's behind the scene. That, not Trump, because he's clearly a devil, but all of his supporters. You'd be surprised how many people that got scared off from their white friends that won't admit it because now they got to look at them different. But you one of the 74 million people that voted for this guy. I thought we was friends when we go to wine tasting places at the
right,
and go shopping, and when we be in the employees lounge laughing, and usually talking about other ethnic groups. I mean, you one of the white people that was, because 74 million people voted for it.
Right.
And, okay, I'm going to concede it was some Negroes who were misguided and Latinos, but by and large, it was white people. And you see them in the store, open carrying in the store, trying to scare people off, not wanting to wear a mask, which I think should be considered attempted murder. Not wanting to take the vaccine so we can hurry get to this herd mentality and return to something that looks like normal life. People who are doing that kind of blocking, by and large, are white people and a couple of Negro followers. You can always have somebody that's not quite right, that's not quite as informed as they should be. And it's sad, but they're not the majority. The vast majority of Black people know it's something wrong, but a lot of times they feel like they can't do anything about it.
Right.
So they cheer you on. They cheered on. I remember my parents and, the men and women in our community, when they would listen to the radio and they would listen to Emil Griffin or Sugar Ray Robinson beat the hell out of a white man. They couldn't box, but they were so glad to see a Black man beating the hell out of. And I remember when we had here in San Diego, when we had the Rancho Drive-In over here on Euclid and Federal, where the Cox Cable is now. And we went to see the movie Shaft at the drive-in, and watching Shaft break a glass over a white man's head and make him bleed because he called him the N-word. And nothing happened to him. We was waiting for you. He shouldn't have done that. And he broke it over his head. And the white boy looked at it, he was bleeding, and he limped away. To see a Black man on the screen, big and handsome like Richard Roundtree, just throwing elbows and cutting through life like Dr. Karinga would say, a diamond in a sack of glass with no regrets. We needed to see that because we hadn't seen that before. What we had seen on the screen was Step and Fetch It. Mantan Moreland. Josephine Baker shaking her thing arrhythmically. You notice I say arrhythmically. It wasn't even in.
Right.
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 To see this. I mean, it was a nothing movie, but for us at that time, late 60s, early 70s, that was like, whew, because they didn't show us Paul Robeson. They really didn't. Yes, you had to find it someplace. Remember, we had to go to the back or up to the top of the thing. We didn't get to hang out in the loge. We had to go someplace else if we went to the movies. Anyway, I'm back on Nia to do what we can. Then we got Coomba. I take that back. I took that out of order. It's cool, but to do as much as you can, the way as you can, in order to leave your community more beautiful and beneficial than you had. Then there's NIA, to make as our collective vocation, the building and development of our community. NIA, the building and development, make it as our vocation, our collective vocation. We got to get back to that in greater measure. People are doing it, don't get me wrong. And you could, hopefully you can tell by my voice, continents and what you know about me, that I'm not sad or defeated or in despair. I just wish we would do more. I wish we would have more help, especially among those petty bourgeoisie, middle class people who made money off of us, who made tons of money and live a good life because of us. They would come back home. Now that they got this money and this installation where they ain't have to be poor, and use it, following Stevie Wonder's model, following Harry Belafonte's model, following Sammy Davis Jr.'s model. You know, Sammy Davis Jr. and Harry Belafonte, they weren't going to be black cultural nationalists, but they helped the movement. Unapologetically stood in the front where they could have been shot and beat. They were entertainers. Nobody asked them to be, you know, civil rights or human rights leaders, but they were men. And anyways, Imani, faith, to believe with all our hearts, and our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and most importantly, the righteousness and victory of our struggle. You gotta believe that what we're struggling for is right. Don't change your mind because somebody told you to. Somebody that don't have your best interest tell you, oh, you don't have to be black no more. We're all humans. Yeah. Don't tell me something that's self-evident, stupid. Like I'm stupid. I know that we're all humans, but I know in this society, humans that look like me are assigned different social worth, are placed in a different class, a different caste, are blocked from developing and flourishing our talents. So don't tell me, I know we all human, punk. And I also know that you dumbing than 2 rocks in a bowl of nails. That's why you have to go and steal and appropriate other people's cultural treasure. Van Gogh, Matisse, where you think you get your drawings from if it's not from African art and African artists? Why you think that the Shona art and the rest of it, instead of it being named after a person, is named after an ethnic group? Just these are small but they're serious things when you think about it. And it seems so self-evident, like, why didn't I think of? Yeah. That's how beautiful being black is when you know. When you're able to walk black, and I say black, because I'm a 60s man. That black means revolutionary. We can say African American if we want, but it limits us to America. But it's still, you know, just because it's a synonymous description. We're Africans we're people of African descent and heritage who happen to live in America. Same way with Haitians, you know, they African, but they live in Haiti. So I just say black because out of the 60s, black meant 3 things: self-respect, self-determination, and self-defense. I stand by that. You're gonna call us black as a put down, we're gonna call ourselves black as an upliftment and define it. Dr. Gringer did that at the Black Power Conference in 1967. Self-respect, first of all. Certain things you think, you just have to respect yourself. And I didn't, I should say I didn't. I look at the beauty of how these things are so profound. Dr. Gringer talks about respecting yourself in 65. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks about it in 1930. Garvey talks about it in that Henry Highland. I mean, it's just this whole continuation of people who say the same thing. And then in popular culture, you got people like the Staple Singer who had a #1 hit, and the name of that hit was "Respect Yourself."
Yeah.
It's just, Keep the same message. So hear it. It's out there. Don't pretend like it's brand new. And if you don't like Tambuzi saying it because you don't like the way he speaks, or you don't like the fact that he won't give white people credit for something, find it someplace else. The only thing I give white people credit for is their accomplishment of oppressing us, but nothing else. There was a great First Nation indigenous chief. I can't remember his name, but he said the white man had he's a liar. He speaks with forked tongue, and he never, all the treaties, he never told us anything but a lie. And he lied to us about everything except one thing. He told us he was going to take our land, and he did. But everything else was a lie. Just lying, making these treaties and coming up with things, saying you ain't gonna do stuff. The Civil Rights Act of 64 is a lie. Now you got white racists trying to use the Civil Rights Act of 64 to justify why they won't wear a mask in public spaces. And it's usually a white person that by their mama and daddy standards and their own aesthetics ain't particularly attractive. You know, them Karens, they're not. And I hate to say it, maybe I shouldn't, so I won't. But I think there's a comeuppance when you do things like that. That there's a karma in the universe. There's a karma in earth life. You know, when you do good, good comes back to you.
Yes.
There's an African proverb that says, do a good deed and cast it in the water. When the water dries up, that good deed is still there. Do good to people. Be nice and kind to people. In the book, in the Hosea, in the book, I think it's of Anshe Shonke, there's a sacred teaching that says, if you are found to be generous in times of prosperity, when adversity comes, you'll be able to bear it. In other words, when you got something, you give it. Then when it becomes your turn for whatever reason and misfortune falls on you, those people that you've given to will give back to you. That's just like normal.
Right.
It's nothing in the African tradition that says, the best of African tradition that says we should hoard. Just keep it for yourself. You do everything for the people and you'll always benefit. But here comes this germ teaching us false history. They had a saying, Miss Porter, and this might interest you. All this should interest you. This might interest you even more. There was a teaching when the white man was trying to break down and destroy the first person indigenous culture and society. And there was they actually said this, that in order to get the man, you had to kill the Indian. To kill the Indian in the person to get the man. How vulgar. And I don't even know it. I don't even know how it feels to wake up in the morning with murder on your mind. With hatred on your mind. Excuse me 1 second. Yes. Okay, I'll get it when I finish. All right, that was a granddaughter. Needed something. Yeah, so, but you said, you'll get it when I finish. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing.
Yeah, because we can always talk again too, you know.
No, I hope so.
You know what?
It's interesting, and I know you probably have to go, but let me just remind you of something.
I have forever.
Yeah.
Really.
That's what I was going to say. I wanted to remind you of something. You and I can't pretend ever that our history and the men and women who made it aren't thousands and thousands of years. Thousands of years. So you can't do, that's what the white man wants us to do. Take our lives and encapsulate it in a 22-minute thing and 8 minutes left over for commercials.
Mm.
That ain't how we, or to follow some kind of formulaic thing that don't get to the point. Our best discussion and our best education comes from dialogue and communication. And usually, because it might look like it at first, might look oppressive at first or wrong, but usually the person that has the most information should talk the most.
Okay.
That
And
just makes all the sense. That makes all the sense in the world to me.
Right.
Dialogue doesn't mean a fake equality. It means some interaction. And what happens is that when you talk to people who have less knowledge, less wisdom, less information than you have, the conversation will appear to be unequal, but it's not. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's one of the things, and power. We added power. Us organization added power in the 60s. So in the 50s and 60s, the civil rights and human rights movement was we wanted knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And we added power. But you can't get to wisdom if you don't know nothing.
Okay.
You can't get to anything unless you know something. So that's why knowledge is first. You can't do anything unless you know something. And if you look at the word knowledge and you take ledge off of it, it's to know. And what we know is a lot of white things, a lot of devilish white things, a lot of silly, unimportant, clownish things that we take pride in. But do we know ourselves? Do we know who we are? Do we know where we came from? Do we have an effective grasp of ourselves as Kawida, the philosophy that Maulana created, Dr. Kareem created? Do we have an effective grasp of ourselves, society, and the world, and where we fit in it? That's what real education is supposed to do. An effective grasp of ourselves. Do we know who we are? Or are we confused? If we change the things around and instead of, there was arguing transgendered bathrooms and all that. If we change the narrative around and says, go to the place where morality and ethics reign, and go to the place where money, material things reign, where would you go? Not you, but where would people go? Would they go to morality and ethics, or would they go to money? And you and I both know where people would go until they get hip, right? Till they get cool and fast and fine and feel a certain thing. You know, one of the things I used to respect about your father and his generation, even though I had to wear suits and ties in jobs I had, because it was just a uniform. I wasn't committed to that. But even your pops and singers, entertainers like the Temptation and Delphine, one of the things that they used to pride themselves on being sharp, like just having everything cut, the hair just right, because when they present it to us, their people, they want to be at their best. Look at this group now that performs. They might wear anything, a big clock around their neck, glasses that don't fit, yellow hair on Black men, blue hair on Black women, too much, showing your stomach and your other treasured parts. If everybody can see all your treasured parts, what is there to imagine?
Okay. Wow.
And what makes you special if you show all your treasured parts, man? And if your discussion around sexuality doesn't include being a man, being knowledgeable, having mental maturity, having moral maturity, having a cultural knowledge of who you are so you could teach your children, being a man or woman of consequence so that when you walk into the room or you walk it among other people, you stand out, not because you look silly or foolish, but you just look confident. And even people who might be short in stature look tall.
Mm.
You do genealogy and research. Look at some of the men and women. They wasn't real big. Harriet Tubman was about what, 5'1".
Oh, was
Look
she?
at this,
Ooh,
5'2". But look at
yeah.
the shadow that she cast.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey wasn't over 6 feet. But look at and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a small man. They used to call him the little lamb, the holy
Wow.
apostle, about 5'4", 5'6". But the shadow that he cast, the cultural shadow, he just seemed to. Malcolm tells a story in his autobiography about being on the plane with a white woman, and she keeps looking at him, and she looks down at his briefcase, and on his briefcase is marked X. And she thinks she's not real sure. It's fine. She just asked him, "Are you the Malcolm X Are you Malcolm X, the one that's always in the news?" He said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, for some reason, I expected you to be darker."
Oh, wow.
He was red, bro. Not
Yeah.
you. But he was so black in his
Right.
stature. He was so black in his character. He was so black in his conversation. He was so black in the way that he lived his life. He just looked black, ebony, So that's how we're supposed to carry ourselves. That's how people walk in the world. And when you see them, it's like people they used to talk about some of our women being ugly. Back up and look at them again. No, they're not. Not if they have good character.
Right.
Not if what comes out of their mouth is pretty. I was looking at what do they call it? A linotype of these old people, like my older people, like Maya Angelou and the rest of them in the 40s and 50s. The way they would dance when there wasn't no white people around, when they didn't have to flow show, as my people used to say. They were happy and they were on beat. As soon as they had to be in these things with white folks, you lose your rhythm. That's why they invented line dancing. So 1, 2, so it could be formulaic and white people could do it. Because part of African culture was the ad lib, right?
Right.
The call and response. We didn't need nobody to tell us 1, 2, now turn your hips this way. Well, the black people did the same thing. Just, white boys said, turn your side from cup. So white people do like this. Not white people, but Negroes, they copy that.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of the thing, but they haven't, and people think they're doing something new and hip.
It's not.
White people. We used to dance. We did the Philly dog. And everybody was on beat, even though they wasn't like in line. Now, don't get me wrong. There's certain black things that I want us to do in line. Like in high school, Lincoln had the baddest band. Now it's famous. But there still was a cool thing because the drum, I think they call it drum master, he still was bopping. The people with the drums, they would take them, then the girls, women would, we was bad.
Okay.
You look at them now, you want to cry. It's like, trying to imitate an imitation of yourself. It's like faxing the facts to a fax that fax something and then expecting it to look like the original.
Oh, no, that's not going to happen.
That dog won't hunt, as they say. Anyway, what time you got?
Oh, it's 11:12. And
no, you lying. You just saying that.
No, it's 11:12. I mean, I got time. Oh, you drank your coffee. You have tea or coffee? What you got? Water?
No, I only drink 2 cups of coffee a week.
Oh, okay.
I do it really just 1 cup, but I'm doing this one now for you.
I'm looking at myself in this video. I'm like, dang, I look so much like my birth mother.
Well, let me ask you something. Is that important to you? And if so, why?